Everything worthwhile in life will be uphill. A better marriage, a purposeful career, being intentional at home, having an impact in the community. None of it happens by accident, and none of it happens on a flat, effortless path. But here's the problem. Most of us are exhausted. We're tired of drifting. We're tired of feeling overwhelmed. And so we look for an escape. We choose to numb by scrolling, or the passivity of just getting by, or putting off what we know we should do for the long run, but for something that feels nice in the moment. Well, welcome to the Worthwhile Climb series. Over the next few weeks, we are stopping the slide. We're stopping drifting. We're going to give it up. And we're going to trade the easy escape for the hard, worthwhile work of significance. But we aren't doing it with giant leaps that lead to burnout. We're doing it with consistent small steps, just a tiny 1% change, that will raise the lid on our leadership and ultimately our legacies. It's time to stop drifting. It's time to start climbing. It's time for you to claim your day. This is the Claim Your Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Mazey. If you're tired of drifting and ready to start living intentionally according to your values, you're in the right place, my friend. We're here to help you lead with excellence at home, at work, and in your community so you can live with significance. Let's bridge the gap between who you are today and who you are called to be. Now is the time for you to claim your day. Hello, my friend, and welcome. Welcome to episode 81 of Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're here and joining in as always. As you know, we're in the middle of a series on the worthwhile climb. It's because everything worthwhile is uphill all the way. But you know what? It's worthwhile. It's worth the effort. Just because it's hard work does not mean you should shy away from it. In fact, if it's difficult, if it's challenging, if it's worthwhile, that means it's all the more reason for you to get after it and go for it. Today we're talking, about how we're talking about the compounding effect of just one more. And that this lack of purposeful progress, it can really wear us down, and it can cause us to not want to put forth the effort. But what we're talking about today is that little bit of extra effort. The results, the benefits of that little bit of extra effort is compounding and can really lead to the drastic results and improvement and rewards that you're looking for. So have you ever been there? We're on this worthwhile climb. Have you ever, just really struggled with taking that next step, putting forth that little bit of effort? Because over this series, what we've done is we've looked at, the lid, kind of what happens when we hit that lid and we can't, we're not making progress past that, and really the collateral damage of not improving ourselves. We've discussed that slow build, how sometimes people around us might not be jumping on board with our vision and our goals as quickly as we are. And then so there's a benefit of slowing down a little bit so that we can show them some of the benefits, so we can get their buy-in by the effort that we're doing. We're not giving up, we're not quitting, but we're a little bit more methodical to make sure that, when we reach that summit, we're not alone, and that we have the people with us that mean the most to us. We've talked about dodging that Tuesday night trap, and things that we can do to make sure that we're not just numbing and doom scrolling and all those things that are not really recharging us. In fact, they can be actually draining, even though that's exactly what we're trying to combat and to go against. Look, let's be honest, sometimes that novelty wears off, especially when you're in the middle, or you might have heard it called the messy middle. Because we talk about these great things in this series, but when you're in the middle of it, sometimes it's hard to remember that. And that's where it really feels like you're doing all the work, but you're not seeing the results yet. And frankly, this is really dangerous. This is we should have some warning signs and some caution signs, some beware, because this is where some people quit. It really is. It's in that messy middle where they haven't started to get the results yet. They haven't gotten all the benefits of the work, but they're just pushing and grinding, and that can wear on you a little bit. See, people, they think that just because they can't see the summit, that they're not making progress. They might lack the visible growth, but that growth can really still be happening. So today we're talking about the compounding effect of one more. Of continuing to push, about giving that little effort. I'm going to show you why sometimes the most important step that you take in your climb, it might not just be the first one, and it might not be the last one. it really might be some of those in the middle. It's that one that you take when you really don't feel like moving at all. It's that one step that you take when you feel like quitting. It's that one step that you take when you know you've already taken a lot. And so why do you got to take this one? And you start questioning it. In that messy middle, but you take that step anyways, my friend, that can be one of the most important steps that you ever take. So the few points that we have today, starting off with, the first point is, let's envision an invisible bank account. An invisible bank account of growth. Now, I don't know if you heard the analogy of a bamboo tree. So a bamboo tree, see, after you start a bamboo tree in the ground, it can go years where you're not seeing any growth above the ground. But you know what's happening? Those roots are growing. It's establishing itself. Those roots are going deep. And then all of a sudden, after 5 years of basically no growth above the ground, it can shoot up to 80 feet in 6 weeks. Now, that's pretty fast. Think about that. Virtually no growth at all for years. And then, boom, in 6 weeks, it's shooting up out of the ground. So that can be your growth. You see where I'm going with this. Sometimes you might not be seeing those results on the outside, but you're doing the work. You're taking the steps. You're being disciplined. You're not giving up. And then sometimes that's when they say it's an overnight success, 10 years in the making. No, that's what that comes from. It's all the years of dedication. It's all the years of you're improving yourself. You're working towards your goals. You're doing the things you need to do. You're putting in the input, and then those results are going to come later. So if you're failing or you feel like you're failing, you really could just be in this underground phase. Every time you choose discipline over numbing, see, you're making a deposit into that invisible bank account of growth right there. So I want to encourage you to stop looking for proof in the mirror, or your bank account every day. Instead, look for the proof in your actions that you showed up, you put in the work, you took the steps. That's where you really focus. You keep doing what you need to do and what you should be doing for your own growth and your family and what's most important to you and your values. You keep doing that work with consistency in that discipline, and then the results will come, even if they don't come right now today. So that's the first point. I want you, when you're in that messy middle, remember that you're making deposits into your invisible bank account of growth. The second point for today, it's all about that one more. It's all about that one more. When you reach that point where you just want to stop, at the end of the workout, it's at the end of the workday, or you just had a tough conversation, and you feel like just giving up and quitting, and you're just done. I encourage you to do one more. See, doing just one more, it's not that it just gives you the results of the effort that you put in, because it'll do that. If you do one more push-up, one more sit-up, if you send one more email, whatever it is, if you're doing one more, you're going to get the results of that effort that you put in. But it's far, far more powerful what actually goes on in your brain. See, you're proving to your brain that you're in control. You're proving to yourself that you are choosing through your disciplined actions. You are choosing what you're going to do, not your feelings. You're building up that resilience muscle. You're building your grit, your determination, your belief in your own ability to do what needs to be done to achieve your goals. That one more, oh my goodness, those benefits of that one more are psychologically, to yourself, are far, far more powerful than just the whatever that immediate result is of doing that one more. It's proving that no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on, no matter how the day's gone, you can do it. That you are determined, you are disciplined. My friend, do one more. Pick one more for this week. Maybe it's one more page of reading, or one more minute of that just focused play with your kids. For me, it's going to be reading one more page at nighttime for bedtime. Sending one more intentional email. Asking one more question of your spouse to just have that, nice conversation. To be engaged and interested. When you're just cooked after a long day. Do that one more. That's the second point. There's a lot of power in that one more. And this third point is consistency is going to beat intensity. Oh my goodness. Yes, it is. I mean, think about it. Intensity can get you started, but it's consistency that keeps you going. When you're consistent, you keep making progress and you cross the finish line. That intensity can burn out, but that consistency, that's what's going to get you across. See, a level 10 effort for 1 month is useless compared to a level 2 effort every single day. Day in and day out, you keep making progress. You develop that discipline. You're being persistent and consistent. That's what's going to take you farther. See, that's the same thing with the small steps take you farther than large leaps, because you can be consistent with small steps. See, you don't have to be extraordinary to have that extraordinary life. You don't have to be perfect at everything or be the best at everything. You just have to be consistent, and consistent in the right direction. See, John Maxwell talks about this sometimes, where he's talking about, he's so boring successful. Because people say, I want to do what you do. And then he'll tell them about his days, and his days are boring. He reads, he writes, he makes notes, he shares, he speaks. But it's the consistency over time that has built his skill and his reach and his impact. And I want to encourage you to think about it the same way. It's not about the flash and the show of this great intensity. It's about being consistent, moving towards your goals, and living the life that you want to live day in and day out. See, your future isn't built by one massive lightning bolt moment. No, it's built in the one mores. It's built in choosing discipline. It's built in choosing not to numb and escape. And instead, you're choosing to have the impact in the moment that you're living, especially on those rainy Tuesday evenings when you don't feel like doing anything. Would you rather just check out, numb, and doom scroll? When you choose that consistent, positive behavior aligned with your values and your goals, when you choose discipline, my friend, that is building your future in a positive direction. Well, those are the 3 main points for this episode this week. I want you to think about, making deposits in that invisible bank account of growth. I want you to commit to doing one more when you just don't feel like doing one more. And I want you to remind yourself and lean into the fact that consistency is going to beat intensity. Okay? As always, you can go to nickmazy.com. You can listen to episodes, read the show notes there. I have an intentional choice guide for you as well. Help you to work through your values so that you can make choices that are aligned with what's most important to you. I want to remind you that you can head on over to Substack. Always having a good conversation there, sharing some positive material. There you can chime into, what one area of your life where you're going to do just one more. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Join me, I said, on Substack, or check me out on nickmazy.com. And again, we're going to be sharing more information about our intentional life leadership community on the school platform here soon. All right. Thank you for listening. Take care. Can't wait to talk to you again next week.